Hi everyone, good evening and welcome to the launch event for Tales for Trails by Cycling UK. So I'm Anna Glavinsky and I want to kick off tonight by telling you a little story about this wonderful charity of ours. So Cycling UK is over 140 years old and it's got an incredible history itself. All from bringing cyclists together, shouting out for cyclist rights and connecting businesses, clubs, communities in the UK with each other. So all those like-minded people who enjoy the love of two wheels coming together and getting to know each other back when cycling was just kicking off as an activity in itself. It was a membership scheme with thousands of cyclists supporting and benefiting it. And as time went on, our objectives changed. The campaigning voice became louder, and we were working hard to lobby governments, highlight absurd traffic laws and roadway laws, and also defending very individual cyclists who couldn't necessarily defend themselves in certain situations. All of this led to Cycling UK becoming an official charity. So it did keep its core membership gang, but it's also got a specific campaigning arm, club affiliations, group rides, associations, and engagement as well, trying to get the UK to know just how wonderful cycling is. Our mission is to get 1 million people on bikes in the UK who aren't already cycling. So if you'd like to find out more about our work and who we are, please do visit our website. It will be going in the comments there if you'd like to click on a link and find out more about us. Maybe you'd like to become a member, donate, or just get a little bit more information. We'd love to hear from you. So that's my story. And tonight you're going to be hearing lots more stories because we're bringing cycling and tales together. It's all about a new heritage scheme in the Welsh Valleys, and the lady who's going to tell her story all about it is Gwenda. Hello.
Hello, Anna. Thanks for the introduction. I'm Gwenda. I'm Cycling UK's engagement officer in Wales, so I cover the whole of Wales, and I do all sorts of things, as Anna mentioned, to get more people on bikes, whether it's breaking down barriers, campaigning, lobbying, and we were really lucky to, a few months ago now, have the opportunity to run this project called, I get it confused sometimes, so it's Tales of the Trails. So the way Tales of the Trails happened is quite interesting. So I live in Cardiff, and a lot of my cycling is up into the valleys. And we've got the Taff Trail, which I'm sure everyone knows, which leads from Cardiff to Brecon. And off the Taff Trail, there are lots of other links, and many of them go up the mining valleys. And you're reminded of the heritage. You can pass the Rhondda Heritage Museum, which tells you the history of mining. And a friend of mine, Sally, who we may see in one of the videos, happened to be working in one of these communities. And when I got the job, Cycling UK, she said, "Oh, you must come up and see what we're doing. We'd love to get more involved. We'd love to do more cycling." So I took a trip up the valleys, and I was just blown away by what's happened there and what is happening, and also the history. So I went up and met a couple of people, and you're just standing there talking, and someone else would come up and say, "Oh, you see that mountain up there? Well, I take my bike and then you can see this." So it was just incredibly inspiring to hear these stories, and people who'd lived in the valleys for years, people who'd moved there, they told us why they'd moved here, and there was just such a strong sense of community and pride. And at that time, I was talking to these people, and it's just, something's going to happen from this, but I didn't know what. So I think it was a few months later, someone said, "Oh, there's some funding available," and that's when the idea of the project came up, and we made an application to the Heritage Lottery, and they said yes, and here we are now.
And here we are. I mean, do you want to tell us a little bit more about what the project is, or would you like the video to explain that?
I think the video does a very, very good job. What it is, it's bringing the Tales of the Trails to life.
Fantastic. So, as I say, everyone, this is an evening of storytelling. So I hope you've got a hot drink, or at least a cold drink, and we're going to get going with the first of our videos today.
Using cycling to explore new areas is a great thing, which is why Cycling UK, funded by the Heritage Lottery, have teamed up with Ynysybwl Regeneration Partnership to map new routes for you to explore. Ynysybwl is a small village in the Cynon Valley, and like many other Welsh villages, grew up out of the mining industry. This had a profound impact on the landscape.
When I first moved here in the early 1980s, I used to travel up and down all these valleys a lot, and I had a bright yellow car, and it was completely the wrong colour because it was never yellow. It was always black from all the coal dust and the muck that used to come off the mines onto the roads. The hillside alongside it was black from the pollution, so nothing grew. And you'd see men, tiny little men, stood up on the gantries with all this belching filth coming out of this thing. It was quite an incredible sight. I mean, I'd never seen anything like it before I moved to this area.
The mining industry permeated all aspects of life here, including childhood.
What we used to do, or the braver ones used to do, was catch the trams, or drams, whichever you want to call them, up and down, so where they dumped the slag, then they'd come back down empty. But it was very, very dangerous. I can't recall anyone ever getting injured or hurt, but only the very brave would have the nerve to jump on the drams that come down around them.
Mining not only shaped people's childhood, but also affected many an early career.
I started as an apprentice. We did 6 months of training school. Started September 3rd, 1973, remember the day very clearly. Did 8 months in the training school, then came here. I trained as an apprentice blacksmith. I worked all the way through. I became what they call a rope smith, which is like a foreman. And eventually, Maggie Thatcher did a job, did me a favour, and she did do me a favour, and they closed the pits down. But otherwise, I was going to go anyway. I started doing an OU degree in the early 80s to get out to the place, because I could see it wasn't really the job for me. It was a dangerous job. People got injured, people got killed, and you get disillusioned with places, and I think you have to move on. And so I went for an easy job with a teacher, because I wanted the holidays and the money wasn't bad.
When the mining industry faded, a gaping hole was left in the community. Life was tough for many. So how could this be turned around?
Health and well-being is, really the way forward for a mining community that has suffered years of deprivation, really.
Jill and Winford have been running an outdoor activity centre for 25 years, attracting visitors from near and far.
We were coming, there were families, weren't there?
Yeah, during the lockdown, yeah.
Here, all safe, all watching what they were doing, and it was really worthwhile.
And we are hoping those people will continue coming to the forest, because I must be honest, it's a good place to be, and people realise in this day and age that the benefit from your mental health, your well-being, just by being out in the outdoors. You see it in the news every day, and people coming here so readily since lockdown, and let's hope they continue.
We think with what we got here, we got a lot to offer.
Do many people know about someone, or do you think it's one of the...
Oh, don't tell them.
Okay.
It's our secret. We were getting rather annoyed in the lockdown because there's so many people going, what are all these people coming from? Where are they coming from? And my mate said, do you know, I saw something from Ynysybwl here, which is about 5 miles that way. So yeah, it's getting a bit more known, I think, now. I try to promote it because I just think it's a wonderful place. I bring people up here, I just think it's a beautiful place that I'll be explored more, because I think the impression most people get of the valleys is an industrial wasteland. But it's not. You go up the top of there and you see how little our land is occupied, and there is so much to do around here if you like the outdoor life.
The love of the outdoor life is what led to the fame of one particular local sporting hero.
Well, this is a gravestone of Guto Ynysybwl. He was somewhat of a legend in the world of running, and he's reputed to have been able to catch a hare whilst it was running. He's reputed to having won a race with a horse and a rider, and also to have run 14 miles, get back at home before the kettle boiled. And he was running a race one day over in Newport, and when he got to the end of the race, a friend of his tapped him on the back to congratulate him, and very sadly he dropped down dead at the very young age of 37. Well, my experience of Guto is intrinsically linked to the Bryn Ffynnon pub over there, because we would come up on a New Year's Eve and celebrate the life of Gito. One is by having a mystery runner every year to pay homage to him here at his graveside and run down from the old year into the new. And this is usually a sports person who's done something eminent throughout the year. And everybody would collect, everybody being myself and all and sundry, over in the pub. And you'd be standing on the windowsill. You know, you'd be that crammed in there, absolutely singing, enjoying yourself, talking, lots of nonsense going on. And we would be ordered by the lovely landlady there, Mrs. Blood Williams, to come over to the church and pay our homage in the church, or we weren't allowed to go back and have a stop on at all. So it was wonderful, wonderful memories. Everybody happy, singing, dancing, jumping up on windowsills and so on. I'm very pleased to say it's still going on to this day, and it's a wonderful, wonderful tribute to this man here. I'm very, very proud, as all of us in this area are, to be part of Ynysybwl.
Following in the footsteps of Gito, more and more people are starting to appreciate what the area has to offer. And we're seeing local enterprises pop up to meet the demand.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I work for Upcycle, which is part of the community group. We're standing in the local bike shop, run for the community by myself. I work for the Ynysybwl Regeneration Project, and we're sort of a community-led bike shop. We don't sell bikes, but we repair all kinds of bikes. It's just busy all the time. I mean, Easter was crazy, like it is in all bike shops, but yeah, we just flat out busy. And if it wasn't just me working here, we could be, 24 hours a day, really. It's crazy.
As people discover what Ynysybwl now has to offer, it's important to celebrate and remember where the community has come from.
Memories in our head. Miners sitting on a wall, fat and thin, short and tall. Mufflers, die caps, hobnailed feet. Others walking down the street. Smoking, chewing, taking snuff. All are different, all are tough. Joking, laughing as they wait. The job they love, the job they hate. Shunny Munty, Die St. John. Stingo, Waxy, Little Ron. Blondie, Whitey, Sausage too. Tap Tap, Aye, and Magoo. Names that bring a jolly tear. Black-faced miners, winding gear. Trains all filled with shining coal. From that saviour, from that hole. All now gone, all is dead. All just memories in our head.
Mining has left its mark on the area, both culturally and physically. However, the beauty is clear to see. There remains much to be discovered. Why don't you hop on a bike and see what you can find?
Brilliant. Oh, well done, Gwenda. I've got to say a huge congratulations for pulling all of that together. It is fantastic. I know it was a team effort as well, but, to have that vision and bring it all to fruition, it's great work. And when I was researching into this launch event, I was thinking, what is my personal history with South Wales? And as you well know, I'm a really keen mountain biker. So I love all of the gravity stuff, the adrenaline, going down hills as fast as I can. And actually Bike Park Wales, which is just outside of Cardiff, is one of the biggest bike parks in the UK. And I think it's around 8 years old now. And going there was for one of my very first ever filming jobs. So I got taken to this bike park and I was given the opportunity to interview a huge idol of mine, Manon Carpenter. So wow. She in 2015, she was world downhill champion. She's one of the prides of Wales. She's an amazing rider, a really humble personality. And I was just so privileged to be able to interview her. And not only that, as part of the filming day, she also gave me a little coaching session down some rock gardens in Bike Park Wales. So, to me, it was a fantastic opportunity. And I carried on going there for years afterwards because it's a bit of a mecca for mountain bikers. And, you know, Bike Park Wales has become almost a pinnacle for other bike parks to replicate. And in a way, I feel like that was almost the first of things to come. And this is where your project is now expanding cycling even further in South Wales. So, you know, what sort of things did you learn as you were making the process of the video, of bringing it all together?
Yeah, as I said, I think Bike Park Wales is one of the great things in the South Wales valleys. But I think the thing with Ynysybwl and Clydach Vale, which we're going to see, so is they're just, people don't know about them, and they're absolutely incredible places. And they link up, and I think the beauty of by bike is you can link up those places, so you can you know, discover places that you wouldn't otherwise be able to. For me, these projects wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the people. We've seen some of them there. I mean, Tommy was just like, you know, we struggled to choose poems, so we let him choose that one in the end, and it was just fantastic. And again, Jill and Winford up in Dalwano, they're running that activity centre, enabling people to, you know, come and experience the outdoors. And they talk about the value that brings to communities that have been, you know, the landscape was ravaged by mining. And just to see it, and the people and the community strength and spirit that survives that, I think that was just that's what made this project. And it's the people, as with everything, it's the people. And I just love what bikes and their history can do to bring all that together.
Yeah, you say it's the people that really are at the heart of all of this storytelling. And we've got another person that we're going to bring onto the screen right now. We can introduce Gavin Macaulay, but actually I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit more. Tell us who you are and how you're related to this project.
Hello, hi Anna. So my name is Gavin Macaulay. I am the Outdoor Community Development Coordinator for Cambrian Village Trust. We are hidden away up in Rhondda Valleys, and it was just a really good opportunity for us to tell people what we do, to share the beautiful place in Clydach Vale that we live. We have an amazing Clydach Countryside Park with a fantastic lake and some beautiful, beautiful routes. For me, cycling was always kind of a way to get from A to B, or a way just to improve my fitness. It was never a way to improve my mindfulness, my mental health. So we're ecstatic that we could encourage people to use the Countryside Park and to use the routes around Rhondda to improve their mental health, their mindfulness, and also to learn about the history and the heritage. Didn't really think of that opportunity until it was brought to our attention that you could have some kind of tour on a bike. It just makes sense to me now, a storytelling tour while improving your fitness. What could be better?
Yeah. What could be better? I think we're all going to be bought into that. And also Nick, I think you're somebody, Nick Powell, somebody who's going to agree with that sentiment. So tell us a little bit about yourself and again your connection to this project.
Hi, so I'm Nick. I'm based down in Cardiff, and Cycling UK got in touch with me because they knew I knew Llanweno Forest rather intimately, shall we say. My go-to place is Llanweno Forest. It's, you know, it takes me about 20 minutes from Pontypridd to get into the edge of the forest on the bike. And, you know, when we were not allowed out of Cardiff, the very first night we were out of lockdown, I was straight into Llanweno Forest that evening because I'd missed it so much. So yeah, that's kind of my link in terms of me. So basically I do everything on the bike. My daytime job is a bike mechanic and instructor. So I teach people everything from how to change a puncture all the way through to how to become a professional bike mechanic. I coach, I lead rides, I organise rides, I do audax, and my favourite place to be is on a gravel adventure bike, just cruising around South Wales, exploring different areas in a way which you can do on a bike, which you just can't do on foot or in a car.
Yeah, I guess by being on a bike, you can get off the beaten track, but which you can't in a car. but not being on foot means you can go further.
Absolutely.
Quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And if anyone, you can use the chat bar if anyone wants to ask Nick any questions about what it was involved in building the routes and how that went. So feel free at any point this evening to ask any questions. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Gwenda, so, it's called Tales of the Trails, storytelling and bikes, two separate concepts. How do you see that they link?
I mean, I think Nick and Gavin have really said it. It's whilst the areas we worked in are quite small, that they're, that it would take a long time to walk around. And there's something very, very special about experiencing things by bike, because you really feel the landscape. Their poets have written about it, haven't they? About how you when you're traveling through the land by bike, you really engage with it. And I think some of the moments in the film came about because we were cycling and we just happened to see something, or someone happened to say something, and we said, "Oh, we just need to capture that." So I think there's no better way to start. And the type of cycling I think a lot of us in Cycling UK enjoy is that you're doing it to enjoy yourself. You're not doing it to beat yourself up or anything like that. And we all love stopping to enjoy the view, to have a chat, to have some cake, coffee, whatever. And I think just that added thing to these rides about what happened here, or find a bit more about that story. I mean, when Kathy was talking about Ynysybwl, his grave's there, and it's just like you hear the one bit that we had to cut out. The stories were amazing, and it's a shame we couldn't hear more of them. But there are races every New Year's Eve now, the North Galan races, which happen where Gitto lived, and there's so much richness in the community, and I think there's no better way, to explore it.
And Nick, when you were creating the routes, do you feel that you've managed to capture that sense of the tales and the community, or were you just on a mission to create A to B? How did you go about the whole project?
So the Llanwello area was pretty easy. I'd already put together a number of routes to sort of feed into the cycling community around off-road riding. So I already knew about the dam and the history of the dam and how that was providing clean water for the miners further down the valley. And I already knew about the outdoor education centre. In a previous involvement, met one of the guys who runs that through Mountain Rescue when I used to volunteer on the same team as him, and the whole forest area really, and where the great views were, and the best places to get that sense of, wow, look at the size of this forest on a blue sky day. There's just no better place to be. So that element of the project was pretty easy to come up with. In fact, I knew the forest so well that when Gwenda asked me to put the track together, I didn't even need to go and pre-ride it. It's all in my head. I could just design it on Komoot. I knew what the surface types were like. I knew what bike you needed, and I could just plot it, very straightforwardly. But Clydach Vale, I'd ridden over the top of there towards the Bulch Mountain several times, but never dropped into the valley. And so my first visit to there, to just explore what was available, although it didn't work out in terms of route-wise, it was a proper adventure. Found this massive washout on the way up, which led to an hour of pushing up the hill, where the path had become a river, and the track was washed away almost to the depth of my bike, and it was just impassable completely. But the views at the top and the infrastructure that's been put in for the wind farms now also makes it a lot more accessible for a lot more people on less hardcore mountain bikes and more gravel adventure cross-country mountain bikes.
Yeah, and so like you say, it's not just for the hardcore cyclists, because Gavin, you're sat on a panel here with really true cycle enthusiasts, passionate riders. But as you were saying earlier, cycling sort of dawned on you a little bit more slowly as this great thing to do. Do you feel like that's happening more and more in the area? And will more people be taken to bikes either because of this project and other things that are going on? Do you feel there's a sense of that happening?
Definitely. I think the kind of ethos of Cambrian Village Trust is to make things more accessible for people. That's definitely what we're trying to do. We've purchased some side-by-side bikes. We work with Sight Life, who is a visual impairment group. We're trying to get more people on bikes to their capacity. We're not hardcore mountain bikers. We do it because we enjoy it. We want to discover something new, and I think that kind of personal achievement for someone that maybe didn't ride a bike when they were younger, or just wants to try something new that they haven't done for a few years, that achievement, and I think that strength that they feel inside with their self-confidence is just huge. And if it leads to them kind of loving cycling, fantastic. Then they will go on and they will, discover these routes. But it's kind of with us, that's where it starts.
Brilliant. Oh, did you want to add something there, Gwenda?
Yeah, just saying we ran a fab event in Bike Week, didn't we, Gavin? Up at the country park, and that was just amazing. And we had someone coming up from where Nick works in the daytime to do a doctor bike session, and loads of fantastic conversations. Said they had the side-by-side bikes out for people to see, and it was just brilliant. It just showed, didn't it, the interest. There's a latent interest as well. For just being able to get on a bike, and as Gavin said, there's a brilliant little lake. That there are little rides to do as well. Yeah,
I think it is quite flat where we are. You can ride around the lake, or you can go a bit further. And I think the development of e-bikes and the price coming down just makes it more accessible for more people. Years ago, age was a factor where people would give up cycling. Now, I think people are cycling longer into their life. Going out, and enjoying their cycling life longer. Now they've got this kind of technology on their side.
Yeah, definitely. Or even starting it for the first time at an older age. That's definitely something that I see as well. And, through all of your stories, I'm hearing about these hidden gems, these amazing places that you've seen, the views, the experiences of people that you've met. So with the audience, we'd like to encourage some of you to share some of your stories as well, because that's what tonight is all about. So I'm just going to ask the question of you to get in the chat bar and tell us about some of the, a little story of something that you've discovered that you wouldn't have done if you hadn't been on your bike. Maybe you discovered a great location, maybe you got talking to somebody one time and it ended up being a lifelong friendship. Anything like that, any of those little stories that are personal to you, please do share them in the comments. And also, I've seen some questions coming through, so don't worry, we will be coming to those at the end. We're going to play another video now, but do keep those questions coming in because we will get to all of them. So now we're going to show the video about the Clydach Trail. Did I say it right?
Cycling is a great way to explore and learn more about a new area, which is why Cycling UK, funded by the Heritage Lottery, have teamed up with the Cambrian Village Trust to bring you new trails which connect you with some of the local history. The village of Clydach Vale sits in beautiful surroundings, but underneath the earth is a web of tunnels with a dark story to tell.
On the morning of May the 17th, 1965, in the Pentracene, in number 1 shaft, they'd been having electrical problems, and 2 electricians had gone into the district and they'd opened an electrical panel, and unbeknown to them, there was gas right above their heads there, an explosive quantity of gas. And during their work, when they tried to reset the power, a short circuit occurred. The short circuit occurred within the electrical panel, and those panels are designed to contain an explosion. But because the 10 bolts hadn't been fully tightened on the panel, the flame inside the panel escaped into the atmosphere, and then the whole lot went up. I'd been down number 4 shaft, covering the absence of a deputy, a safety official, and I was sent for from the service by the manager, who wanted to see me. He wanted me to do a job for him, and I met him on the end of the bridge, and he said to me, look, I need to speak with you later on. Don't go home until I see you. Well, that was 20 or 10 to 11, around that mark. And 2.25 hours later, he and another 30 were lying dead on the ground here. And they were all those boys. There have been mine explosions since 1965, but they were in small mines, and the casualties were, this was the last major explosion. The tragedy was, of course, that 16 months later, the colliery closed. And it depends which way you look at that, you know. The closure of the colliery was a disaster, disaster for the community. But, you know, I think if they were going to close it, you know, they should have done it 16 months earlier and saved all those lives.
Lots of time has passed since these disasters struck, but remembering them can lead to some interesting discoveries.
We were doing some research on the local history, you know, looking at old newspapers, and on the old Penygrieg Rugby Club site used to be the Naval Colliery. Now, there were 3 pits there, and one pit was called the Ely Pit. And on the sort of Saturday, there were a bond of men going on, with 26 men going on in the cages, double-decker cages, and when they were 90 feet, you know, the shaft was about 1,600 feet deep. When they were about 90 feet from the bottom, it jerked, and the spanner bar broke. With the result, the empty cage went right up to the wheels, and the big wheel at the top of the pit head, smashed into that, smashed the sheaves. The cage with the men in it went right down to the bottom and through the sump. So they were badly mutilated, they were broken legs, limbs, arms, all sorts of things. Men, you know, 7 men died. There was one guy trying to help the others as best he could. And I said to my wife, what was your grandfather's name? She said, oh, Philip Stafford Pascal. I said, well, that's him. She said, he was recommended for the King's Medal. I said, didn't he ever mention it? No, she said, she didn't. Never mentioned it. So you find out when you do some research, you know, your own roots, really.
Mining generated money for the communities across the South Wales valleys. It built the shops, the homes, the institutions. But it also caused conflict and disputes. In 1910, on Dunraven Street here, a riot erupted. The fuse was lit when the owners of the mine accused the workers of working deliberately slowly on a new mine shaft. The miners were locked out and left without work and income. So workers from neighbouring mines called a strike to stand in solidarity and demand better wages. There was a standoff with the police at the powerhouse and violence erupted. The police chased the miners to here, Dunraven Street, where violence escalated. Windows were smashed and looting occurred. It became known as the Tonypandy riots, and the dispute lasted a whole year. The miners weren't the only ones striking. Not far from here, a very odd occurrence happened at the old sports ground.
On one occasion there was a big show going on there, the various events, and cycling was part of it. And they found out that some of the events were getting paid more than them, the sprinters were getting paid more than them. So they decided that little conflab in the middle of the field, and they went across to the judges and they said, look, you know, we're not getting enough, these guys are getting more than us. And the judges said, well, you knew what you were going to get before you entered. And they wouldn't give them any more, so they went on strike and they took their bikes and went home, you know. So there was a lot of interesting things there.
Clydach Vale has a rich heritage and beautiful surroundings, but how is it viewed by the locals?
The important thing for me is that we're keeping the younger generation here with hope and with ambition. The other day I was talking to a group of young people from a project called the People and Work Unit, and some of them had been unemployed, and the one particular young man spoke out very clearly, and I asked a question, why haven't you left the valley? And he said, well, why would we? It's beautiful now. It's beautiful now, and there's opportunities for us too. So to me, that speaks volumes.
Lots of the narrative growing up is that to make anything of yourself, to be professional or successful, you need to leave because there aren't opportunities here. But I completely disagree. And I think we need to kind of start a new dialogue where young people are encouraged to be proud of where they're from Our natural environment is beautiful, it's amazing, and people will come here because they value it, and it's about encouraging our young people to see that, and again to appreciate the culture and the heritage, to be proud of where we're from rather than ashamed, because I think, you know, we've got lots on offer, and sometimes maybe we're so used to it we become blinkered, and we almost need to be reintroduced again to what we have here. We really have some treasures, and yeah, I think it's time to start celebrating that and to stop the negativity.
It's clear that the area has a rich history and we've not covered it all by any means. Why not hop on a bike and come and explore for yourself?
There's so much history there in that one. Out of you guys on the panel, how many of you knew all about those stories before getting involved in the project? So, that's sorry, Gavin?
Yeah, some of them.
Some of them, but not all. So there's still so much to be discovered. You know, it's wonderful. Does it make you feel more connected, knowing the heritage of the place a little more? Does it give you a sense of pride? Any of you that wants to answer that?
Yeah,
Sorry. After you, Gwenda.
Definitely. And what I say that there's even more there. So we've created some story maps as well. You know, there's so much rich stuff, you know, stories and tales that we got that we couldn't include it all in the film. So there's much more, and it'll be available. It's available on the website and stuff like that. But yeah, it's. I was talking to my dad, who's 86, and he's from North Wales. But one of my cousins had written to him not long ago and said, you know, when I'm older, I want to be able to run as fast as Ynysybwl. I hadn't realised what a big legend Gito was, like across Wales in terms of that, you know, stories. So that was just amazing.
Awesome. And Nick, you had something to say?
Yeah, I think when you're out riding and you just come across these derelict buildings and you know, and traces of what has gone on before. Having an understanding of the history of how that came to be, why it was there, what's underneath your wheels, why the landscape looks the way it is, it just enriches the whole experience while you're out riding.
And Gavin, do you think with all these changes, you know, we've seen how much history has changed the landscape, whether that's for better or for worse? How do you feel about it? Do you feel that people are proud of the area? Do they want to turn their back on the past? They want more modernisation, more tourism?
I think Welsh heritage is always been something within families. I'm one of the people who I've worked in the valleys now coming up to about 10 years, and about 6 years ago I moved there and I fell in love with it. I learned about the heritage. I learned about the history. When I started working at Cambrian, I learned about the history of Cambrian and embraced it. And I really hope those stories do get passed on. And I really hope, you know, children learn about it and we continue to teach it because it is fantastic. We don't want to lose that.
Great. And we've also been hearing some stories from the audience as well. Hairy Dave, is he somebody that you know, Nick, or at least he feels grateful to have met you anyway?
He's fortunate.
So just read it out. He's fortunate enough to have been introduced to some of the fun gravel riding around Cardiff by that there Nick.
Yeah, he's a fellow coach at Whitchurch Cycling Club, and he's been on several of the rides that I organise. I think it was 2017 I started organising a weekly gravel adventure ride. And apart from the pandemic, we were pretty much getting out 42 weeks of the year, exploring every Tuesday night. So it's been a real pleasure to serve and help build a community of adventure gravel riding, you know, in Cardiff. But most of the time we spend headed north pretty much into the valleys because that's where the gems are. That's where the beauty is.
Awesome. And more hidden gems here from Matt. I once met a Galician piper, think bagpipes, playing miles from anywhere in a wood in Spain. He showed me a shortcut avoiding a steep hill and a locals bar with roasted lamb over a fire. priceless. I've got, you know, that sort of thing does happen when you just go off into the wilderness. Sometimes I also live in southern Spain and go off into the mountains, and I stumble across modern shepherds quite often, and that always surprises me, because you see somebody walking, you know, middle of nowhere, and you suddenly see somebody walking when they've got their shawl over their heads to try and keep out the sun, hundreds of goats and sheep around, and they've got their smartphone and they've got their sports trainers and hiking boots. And it's just, you know, you feel like if I just walked into a set of a movie or something like that. It's nuts. And then Daniel Partridge. In lockdown last year, I rediscovered some old disused railway lines which connects the forges, tin plate works and coal mines of Caerphilly. Unfortunately, they're going to ruin with people hardly knowing of the history. So that's something that, you know, you're bringing together this type of thing in this project. There is local interest to re-establish these as cycle routes. Hopefully this will progress as time goes on. Gwenda, it looks like you've got something you want to say there.
Yeah, I think this links in with what I can't remember who it is now. We're talking about the Rhondda Tunnel Society. So again, there's so much in the valleys, and the Rhondda Tunnel Society are an incredible group of people who've been working really, really hard to raise awareness of the potential of linking up two valleys by opening up one of the tunnels between them. And I suggest you go and have a look on their website and see what work they've done. They had some funding, I think, not long ago to do some scoping work to see what was possible, but it's very exciting. And it would be great to see things like this, because I think these things, that they're really, the valleys have this rich heritage, this history, and we need to do all that we can to help as many people to enjoy that as we can, and building on what's there. So that's, you know, what's there in terms of on the ground as well as the people. So yeah, I think it's exciting times.
Yeah, and we're going to move on now, because we're getting close to time, so I want to move on to the questions. But I just want to say to anyone who's watching, or if you're not even watching this live, you're watching this in the future, please do keep coming with those stories in the comments. And again, it's a nice way to bring the community together, and it gives people an opportunity to scroll through and find out about those other hidden gems and funny stories. So it's great. Please do get involved. Nick, there's a question here for you. And if anyone's got any more questions, get them in right now, because we're going to start wrapping this up. 2 communities in 2 valleys. Do you think we can get a mountain bike route over the mountain in between?
Yeah, good question. I assume we're talking between Llanwenno, Ynysybwl and across. There's definitely already some tracks there that exist, some of the forest trails that exist. It's just a case of scoping them out and checking the land access, really. But it'd certainly be something that's you know, we want to look into, and it'd be great to be involved in that. Yeah, definitely.
Fingers crossed. I think most of these questions about people just wanting more trails, more cycling opportunities. Paul here has asked if Cycling UK are involved with the plan to reopen the Rhondda Tunnel. Are there any other panelists involved in the project? This would be an awesome cycling route.
Yeah, that's what we just touched on with Daniel's question about the trains and the tunnels in the mine. So this is about joining up the valley. So yeah, we're not directly involved, but I know Tony, who is very involved, has spoken at some meetings we've been at, and we've been to see talks and stuff like that. But yeah, anything we can do to support, then please do get in touch.
Fantastic. Yeah, sorry, forgive me for not understanding the geography of those places there. I'll have to come down and visit myself and try and get a tour with one of you guys. Should be really good. Gwenda, what do you think tourists will experience if they come down? Is it a nice place to visit?
Oh, they're amazing. You know, unfortunately, it's sort of like one of the days we went up filming with Gavin, I think about 3 of the visits out of 5 I've been up to Cambrian Trust. It's been raining, but even then, it's beautiful. I mean, it just you can't get over these places. And I think what's amazing is the film showed some of the footage of how they were and how they are now. And I think it was Bill the miner, when we were talking to him, he said that's how it was before the mines, you know. So it's been rebuilt and regenerated, and the greenness and the lushness and the wildlife. Darwano up in Llanwenno, Edgell and Wynfordart, that's a dark sky area, you know, and it's you know, we were taking pictures of orchids and all sorts of things. I think people will be blown away, and I think people from not very far as well. This is about for the communities as well, because there are people within the communities who aren't aware of what's on their doorstep. And I just think it's fab that they can learn about that from their neighbours and friends. Yeah, it's very exciting stuff.
I think.
On that note, oh sorry, no, go on, Gavin.
So I was going to say, I think something I got from the films was that people used to live here because they worked here, or people used to live here because it was easy transport to travel into other areas. But I think now people just live here because they love being here and they want to raise their family here.
Yeah.
What a statement. Excellent. All right, we'll leave it at that. And anybody who wants to find out more can get involved on the website, find out more information, or of course, simply head down and visit. So Gwenda, Nick and Gavin, thank you very much for tonight, and to the audience as well. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.